this guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Back to the top of my list, I had Mr. Cooper. Go ahead, Mr. Cooper, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I will move the following motion, that the committee expand its study on the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Official Languages by no less than 4 meetings, that the committee invite Elections Canada officials, representatives from Shepherd's Care Foundation and/or the Christian Care and Support Association / Christian Care at Home Trust, Malvina Gowie, officials from Edmonton Police Service, Ian Stedman, Assistant Professor of Ethics and Governance at York University, Curtis James, Super Poly employee, Carla Roddick, President of Canada Medical, and any other related witnesses.
We do have a copy if you don't have a copy yet. But Mr. Cooper, I'm going to ask you to go first on your motion to expand the study that is currently underway. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. We have Justin Trudeau's Minister of Employment, Randy Boissonnault, who for months has been under an ethical cloud involving shady business dealings with his shady company, Global Health Imports, that is embroiled in allegations of ripping off clients, a company that has been ordered by Alberta courts to pay more than $8 million back to clients who were ripped off, a company that was involved in a shakedown, a $500,000 fraudulent shakedown of a client who had purchased PPE equipment, and someone named Randy, who was, based on text messages, involved in the shakedown, involved in what may amount to wire fraud. Now, Minister Boissonnault says he's not that Randy, and yet for months no one can find Randy. According to Mr. Boissonnault, there were only a handful of people who worked for Global Health Imports. So if the Randy in the text messages involved in the shakedown is not Randy Boissonnault, then who's Randy? Where's Randy? We need to find out. And it should be noted that we now have at least 9 text messages in which Randy was named, including one text message that situated the Randy in the text messages in Vancouver, which just happened to, by, I'm sure, coincidence, be at the very same time that Randy Boissonnault was in Vancouver as part of the Liberal cabinet retreat. And why is that relevant in terms of Randy Boissonnault's involvement or potential involvement in this $500,000 shakedown and potential wire fraud? Well, to begin with, it's very concerning that Justin Trudeau has in his cabinet a minister who was involved in a shady company that has been ordered by Alberta courts to pay $8 million for ripping off clients. I think that ought to be a fireable offense. But, of course, if Minister Boissonnault was the Randy in the text messages, then Minister Boissonnault violated Canada's ethics laws. He violated the Conflict of Interest Act, because the Conflict of Interest Act is very clear that ministers cannot be involved in the operations of a private company. And there's more. There's more because we have recently learned that this very same company that Randy Boissonnault, up until last month, had a 50% interest in, entered into a contract with Elections Canada, which is in violation of Section 13.2 of the Conflict of Interest Act, that says no minister shall have an interest in a partnership or private corporation that has a contract with a federal department or agency under which the partnership or corporation receives a benefit. So the bottom line is, after months, the ethical cloud over this minister continues. Every week there are more questions, more allegations, and we still don't know who Randy is and where Randy is. And so this motion, I believe, is timely to expand the scope of the study, to call in additional witnesses so that we can get answers for Canadians and that we can hold this minister to account for his potential corruption.
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the meeting. Is that the peanut gallery?
We have a motion to adjourn the meeting, again, non-debatable. So I'm going to ask the clerk. I suspect that we don't have consensus on this. Okay. A little premonition on my part. But Madam Clerk, you want to take the vote on the motion to adjourn?
The vote is on the motion by Ms. Shanahan that the meeting be adjourned. Mr. Baines.
Yes.
Ms. Shanahan. Yes. Mr. Fisher.
Yes.
Mr. Housewater.
Yes.
Ms. Khalid.
Yes.
Mr. Barrett.
No, thank you.
Mr. Caputo.
No, this is to you.
Mr. Cooper.
No.
Monsieur Villemur.
No.
Mr. Green.
That's going to be a no for me.
Yeas 5 pour 5, nays 5 contre 5.
Okay, so my vote is no, and the reason is because we have time. We started late, so we can continue. So my vote is no.
Why is this brought in today? When we know that the minister is coming in on Thursday, if we are being genuine, then why not pose all of these questions to the minister, and then whatever's left over, then you bring forward a motion to say, all right, these are the questions that I don't have answers to, and these I want answers to. But we've had answers from so many different committees, from so many different witnesses. And I, again, will refer to the industry committee yesterday where Mr. Cooper got told off by the ethics commissioner to be like, what are you doing, buddy? And why? It just doesn't make sense to me. But again, happy to go along their rabbit hole, but I don't want to do it preemptively. I think that we need some time to really question the minister who is coming before us on Thursday, to ask all of our questions to our heart's content, and then reevaluate as to whether we are effectively using House resources, whether we are doing something that is going to benefit Canadians, or are we taking away from what Canadians can really benefit from, which is a study on misinformation, disinformation, which is a study on social media, which is a study on the Lobbying Act and perhaps the Conflict of Interest Code, etc., to see how we can better reframe ourselves to build that public trust and to protect the public in these times of artificial intelligence, of social media, and a lot of lack of privacy for individual Canadians as well.
But I see that the plot thickens. I have seen this movie before. A list of random names, ordinary people, ordinary citizens carrying out their day-to-day business who happen to be linked in some way by a reporter, by a political operative, by somebody on Facebook, on social media, and they're called before this committee or any other committee. I have seen this before. People's lives being trashed.
I don't get the sense of why all these names are here, what their connection is. The Edmonton Police, I don't see.
Hold on, Mr.
I don't
Fisher,
see.
if you want, you can go through the chair and ask the mover of the motion if that's what you want. It's just the back and forth between
Understood.
members I don't
Understood.
appreciate, but
Yeah, I don't,
it's there for you if you want.
I don't see any reason why Edmonton Police, that has nothing to do, that I can see anyway. Ian Stedman seems to, again, have nothing to do with this matter. He's not an involved party. I think he was just quoted. Some of the other individuals maybe have had legal conflicts with GHI. Minister Boissonneau's not named in those. We're not a court. It's not up to us to bring court into committee. I think someone, maybe it was ICRA, said that this is a absolute fishing expedition. But and Curtis James, I don't know why. So I guess then through you, Mr. Chair, perhaps Mr. Cooper can give us some feedback as to why he's giving this grocery list of just about every name that he may or may not have read in the newspaper.
I think that's a fair question, Mr. Fisher. I'm going to go to Mr. Cooper. Mr. Fisher has the floor. You're answering his questions, Mr. Cooper.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I'd be happy to note each of the witnesses that we were calling on. Elections Canada, we need to hear from Elections Canada because of the contract between Randy Boissonneau's company and Elections Canada. Right. Shepherd's Care Foundation and Christian Care Support Association, they're suing Randy Boissonneau's company for ripping them off. Right. Same with Malvina Gowie from the Gowie Group, who was a victim of the $500,000 shakedown in which there were 9 text messages referencing Randy. Very relevant. Edmonton Police Service. We need to hear from the police because within weeks of the $500,000 shakedown, there was an arson at the warehouse of Randy Boissonneau's company, an arson that the that the Edmonton Police Service has determined to be or likely to be arson. Ian Stedman, who is an expert, and Curtis James, who works as an employee at a company located next to the former warehouse before it was burnt down, who has information about the number of employees and who was working there because there is contradictory evidence between what Mr. Boissonneau said and what Mr. Anderson said. Right. And Carla Roddick, again, another victim of Randy Boissonneau's company. So these are hardly names out of thin air. They're very relevant to getting to the bottom of corruption that surrounds this minister.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Mr. Cooper. Mr. Fisher, you have the floor. Hopefully that answers some of your concerns.
But it basically just makes it look like Elections Canada, really, would be the only one that seems viable as to invite for this committee. I was in the House this morning when Mr. Barrett talked about bringing Mr. Anderson before the House on his point of privilege. I do think that Mr. Anderson was a bad witness. I think the issue is more with Mr. Anderson. I will certainly listen to what others have to say, but Mr. Cooper, thank you very much for the explanation, but I don't buy most of those names on there. I do see some value in Elections Canada, but I don't see any reason why many of these names are on this motion.
And I thank Mr. Cooper for that further explanation because it only proves my point that these names have been chosen because they have some kind of dealings, they have legal cases and so on. And so the Conservative Party of Canada is exploiting people who have legitimate or legal concerns. They have issues. They are things that there are could be conflicts, whatever it is that they are going through. And the Conservatives think, wow, this is going to be great. Let's exploit this. Let's drag these people in here and let's expose them, outside a court of law where they would have certain protections and so on. No, let's do that. So it's really an exploitation and a fishing expedition for people that. I would guess maybe they've been promised something. Maybe they've been told that, you're going to get justice, you're going to get this, you're going to get that, and maybe they are going to be very disappointed. And in fact, I hope that they are listening to me right now because please be observed.
I have a point of order. Go ahead, Mr. Caputo. Relevant. Go
They
ahead.
may well be listening and have something to say. Be that as it may, to suggest that any member on this side here has promised something to somebody in exchange for them coming here is not only inappropriate, it is highly inflammatory, and that should be withdrawn.
Fair enough. Thank you. Ms. Shanahan, go ahead. Go. You have the floor. Go ahead.
Chair, I am moving an amendment, and that would be to delete the text after official languages by no less than 4 meetings, to add and to continue along that text to officials and the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner. That is the proper term in English, I believe. And to delete the rest of the text. So it would be period after commissioner.
Substantively changes the motion here, so I'm going to just going to refer to the clerk on this one. This is a pretty significant change, Ms. Shanahan. Because, yeah, just repeat it again so that we're clear.
That the committee expand its study on the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Official Languages, semicolon, that the committee invite Elections Canada officials, semicolon, and the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner to testify on this study, period.
I didn't hear you say that second time, that you want to strike the rest of the witnesses. Is that what you're suggesting? Because I heard it the first time, I didn't hear it the second time.
Yeah, striking. So that is the clean version with the amendments that I'm suggesting. So there's 2 ways we can do that. That's the clean version, or that I repeat. Delete, add, delete.
Okay, so the way I read it now is that the committee expanded study on the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Official Languages, semicolon, that the committee invite Elections Canada officials, semicolon, and the Ethics Commissioner. That's the way.
And the Conflict of Interest and Ethics.
Well, Conflicts of Interest and Ethics Commissioner.
To testify on this study.
Okay.
And that's just to round it out.
Just give me a second here, please. Okay, so the amendment is in order. So I'm going to on the amendment, I'm going to go to Mr. Barrett. Go ahead, Mr. Barrett, please.
Yeah, lots to unpack there, Chair.
Yeah.
I would just say that Ms. Shanahan, in her concluding comments, said that she doesn't support motions that would prescribe when the meetings occur, but her colleague, Ms. Khalid, just put forward a motion saying that study should happen in the next immediately. So she proposed her colleague proposed a motion mere minutes ago that did the exact thing that she's decrying. Look at the motion by Mr. Cooper seeks to invite, not to order any of these people to appear, in spite of Ms. Shanahan's objections and thinking that we need to worry about the police feeling victimized by receiving an invitation from the clerk of the committee. I think that they'll probably be okay if they get that invitation, and I think that for any of the folks on here who haven't expressed an interest in appearing, they might just decline the invitation. But if it would perhaps give the chair, be useful to the chair or to other members of the committee, I'm quite sure that we could make an overture to anyone who's interested in appearing, and that they could come and appear. I mean, it's also standard that we would just on the study be able to invite witnesses based on the agreed upon number of slots per party. So if the idea is to just take out all of the witnesses and that all the parties can submit names of witnesses to appear, I think that's great. I would be worried that the Liberals might invite someone who would feel victimized by having received that email. But I think that having Elections Canada and the folks that Mr. Cooper named, including the Edmonton Police, come to provide us important context because we've had witnesses, including a minister and his business partner, come to committee and cook up some whoppers about what's been going on, and it speaks to and I hear Ms. Khalid ask if it's lying. I'm not sure if Mr. Boissonneau's lying. I'm not sure if Mr. Boissonneau's lying. Perhaps he is.
Okay, hang on a sec, Mr. Barrett. So I don't want any crosstalk here. Okay, on both sides. I'm trying to deal with the clerk on an issue here, and I'm listening as I deal with it. But I can't hear and I can't deal with it if I've got crosstalk on both sides. So let's stop that, please. Go ahead, Mr. Barrett.
So we're not sure who's lying, and I think that's the important thing. And Ms. Khalid's she's very frustrated today that she has to defend the most corrupt government that Canada's ever had. A prime minister twice found guilty of breaking the law. First time that's ever happened
Point
in
of
history.
Order, Chair.
Twice found guilty
Point
of
of
breaking
order,
the law.
Chair.
Justin Trudeau,
Point of order, Chair.
prime minister.
Point
Go
of
ahead.
order, Chair.
Sorry, Mr. Barrett. Go ahead on your point of order, Ms.
Thank
Khalid.
you very much, Chair. You know, I've been accused of clutching my pearls. I've been accused of needing Kleenexes. I've been accused of a whole bunch of things by Mr. Barrett, and he's more than welcome to bring me a box of Kleenexes in the next meeting that he comes in. I don't appreciate this misogyny that he delivers very deliberately against me on this committee, Chair. I'm just trying to move forward in an efficient way for us to do the work on this committee. Help me out here, Chair. This is not fair to any of these members on this committee. I'm not talking about myself. I don't need to be talked down to by anybody at all.
Thank you, Ms. Khalid. Go ahead, Mr. Barrett.
So frustrated, Ms. Khalid and her colleagues are about having to defend
Point of order again, Chair.
the most corrupt prime minister
Point
in
of
history.
order again, Chair.
Go ahead on your point of order, Ms. Khalid.
Thank you, Chair. I do believe that the standing orders list that there should be parliamentary language and decorum in the way that we conduct ourselves. And I find that extremely lacking in Mr. Barrett's behavior. I am not frustrated at all. I am a very passionate person in the work that I do for my constituents on a regular basis. And the work that I do on this committee, I would like for us to get to that work and not play all of these political games that the Conservatives keep using this committee to play. These are government resources and House resources that we should be using in an effective manner.
Ms. Khalid, thank you. Mr. Barrett, go ahead. I do expect decorum on all sides. I could probably go back through the blues and cite numerous examples of where decorum, and I'm not looking at you directly, Mr. Green, but you're looking at me, where numerous issues of lack of decorum have occurred. And so I'm asking for some decorum, not just for today, but for every single day that we're here. So go ahead, Mr. Barrett, please.
Chair, it's important that we have decorum when we do discuss the Liberals' staunch defence and their frustration in having to do that.
Point of order again, Chair.
Prime Minister in history, Justin Trudeau.
Chair,
Ms. Khalid can't even let me get a sentence out of my mouth. I would say, Chair, that she seems to be creating disorder in the committee.
I will not put up with bullying.
Okay, so it's 6:46. We have resources till 6:47. Unfortunately, I don't have any more resources.
The cover-up Liberals shut down the meeting.
So I am adjourning the meeting right now.
Iker covered it up.
Like and subscribe.